Mastering tension, Ian. Congratulations. Yeah, and it's like mastery. I don't know. I don't know if there ever is a mastery. I don't know if it's ever goes away. I think we just learn skills to work with it differently. Then it's less tension. Like we just like you said earlier, it's like you now you know right away from your intuitive yes or no. What's key to that is that you are in the practice of asking.
I ask everything now just for practice. Should I have a cup of coffee? Yes or no? Should I have a cup of tea? Yes or no?
Hmm.
Should I go for a walk? Yes or no? That's how I practice.
Yeah, that's how you practice. Exactly. You practice on the little things so that when the big things come around, you're trained. So, like when those conversations with your mom or anyone, right, happen, you don't have to ask, right? The sense is there, and you're attuned to it, so that you can be there differently than you have in the past. And that's part of the reflection that people see that helps them. Because we're all just trying to relieve all of our tension. We just don't know how to do it. And like into Craig's word of we're bringing in stability, coherence, bringing coherence where there was incoherence. And not to spotlight the pattern that you spoke about, but most of us don't even see our patterns.
Mm. That's why the questioning is so valuable, right? Because you're checking.
Yeah. And so again, what I've found is it's easier for us to see others' patterns. But once we start to see others, we can start to see ourselves, our patterns. And that is a growing loop, a growing cycle. We see it in them, and then we look for it in ourselves. That's it.
When I
So
was
then
talking
there's
to, sorry,
that was my word for exploring. So that's what I'll use my exploring for my word today.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Ian. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, when I was talking to my mom, I just got the message from my higher self that my mom's not gonna like wake up in this incarnation. She's not gonna overcome it. So just held compassion for her. And I got the message that from a higher self perspective, she is really proud of me.
Mm.
Well, she's just not gonna wake up in this lifetime. She's not gonna, she's not willing to do the work. So just hold compassion for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. We see. It's like man, and what a rich message, right? And what a peaceful way to be with it when mm, compared to what uh, compared to what we think would be right. Like it's almost as if like needing to know how to deal with it. It's like you, like God, you received the message of how to deal with it. And so the coherence now is staying in alignment with that until I don't want to say instruction, but more like the guidance changes.
And also until the reflection from the other changes.
Mm-hmm. I'm amazed by the changes I've made that showed up in my close relationships, and that's like the immediate family.
Mm.
I could see it the most with my mom. And that was the obvious. And I think it's just because of the bond we have with them.
Mm. And the length
And
of time that's been there.
yeah, yeah, and the yeah, and how much it's so much a core of who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
Or
perhaps more.
whoever took care of you, like as you were growing, developing, whoever you spent the most time with. Probably a better way to say it.
Morning, Annette.
Good morning.
Good morning, Annette.
More than that.
So I caught
I think
part of that conversation about bonding with the person who you spent the most time with. Um, what is that referring to? And the reason why
Kinship.
I asked that is because um, in my own life, I was getting different reactions to that. And so I'm just curious as to in what context that.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, because I came in partway through the conversation.
Great. Whose reaction, Annette?
My reaction
Oh,
and my
good.
perceived reaction of others.
Hmm.
Let's say my kids, for instance.
Hmm.
Me being, I was a stay at home mom, and how each one of my kids interacts different with me now, in particular after my husband separated and divorced, how that has changed from prior, during, and now after. Um, So I'm just curious in what context, like you were talking about.
Yeah, so tension was really what we were working, like seeing, uh, practicing the intuitive questions, and receiving the answers. And in the discussions of how, what I've noticed as I've done my work of seeing my patterns, how it's like cutting one side of the string, the other person can still hold on to them, but there's not a whole, between the two, between mine and theirs, if we cut the string between them, they can fuse their string back together, right? They can put the rubber band back together on their end, but it's a different coherence between us, there's different space than what that tension had between us. So we were working the word tension, coherence, and exploration.
Okay. That's kind of what I have done. And I've done that through guidance from some very good people that as much as one wants to have a relationship, I say myself, I want to have a relationship with each one of my kids. It's also what they choose to have as a relationship with me. And if they choose to ghost me, because one of them has, sorry, my pup's on on a squeaky toy in the background there. I gotta go into another room. That's their choice of the type of relationship they choose to have with me. That same, I'm going to say child, so that same child, we used to do everything together, and so it's gone from one extreme to another. And when I mean everything together is because I was the primary parent that was here all the time. The other parent was gone all the time. And it's completely flipped. So and it's completely flipped in the whole mess up of the family. And yet two of them, I think one just doesn't know where he fits in, and he just does his own thing. Again, he chooses to have the specific type of relationship with me that he chooses, and I just let him do that because I can't force him. The other two I approached differently, and because I had more contact with them, and the relationship that came out of it has been absolutely phenomenal because the relationship has evolved. It's not like when they were in university or in high school or anything like that. It's a completely different relationship of adult to adult. They are still obviously, still stuck in some of their more youthful tendencies, but one sees them evolving into an adult, and one can then converse with them, relate to them from an adult and different logical and different emotional state as well. So the tension is very different because it's also evolved. Because even when things are good, there's still a tension there. It's a different kind of tension.
I think that release of tension is when we embrace it. So the tension, when we're in a creative frame, I'd say, or creative structure, which is probably the same thing, but not really. I think that there's always a tension, and it needs to be there, but it's experienced differently. We do something different with it. We allow it, and it propels, gives momentum. I think that's the difference. Because even in presence, if my awareness is full, you know, in other words, it's active, there's a tension still. An experiencing of different vibrations, of different sounds, different breathing.
It's the approach of how the tension is going to sit in you. And if it's going to be primary, secondary, or beneath that.
Mm.
And it's a lot of work, takes a lot of work to work through that, because if it's something that eats away at your core, it's going to be at the surface a lot, because one's going to think about it, one's going to ruminate about it, and it's understanding for the self how to cope with it, but in a way of how to, not to diffuse it, but how to allow
Mm.
the structure around that tension to integrate in you, that you can still continue to survive and thrive and cope, understanding that one has to make oneself a priority. How can I say this? Because I know what I'm feeling,
Yeah.
what I want to say, but it's not coming out in the right kinds of words. But it's getting past some of the social norms that people say, oh, just get over it and stuff like that. Well, you can't just get over it. You actually have to face it. You have to deal with it. One has to be able to feel it and 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 find a place for it, but not stuff it in the closet, so to speak.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm. It does to me.
Because of the example I gave about my one child who has ghosted me. They have 2 kids already. I haven't really seen them. Well, the second one I haven't even seen. I didn't even know the child's name. Don't even know the date of the birth. It really, really bothered me for a very long time. And with the assistance of my therapist and some other very qualified and very good people, I was able to manage those emotions and come to terms of, again, that is the relationship that they choose to have with you. That is the tension that they choose to have with you. But I chose not to take on that tension. It was a lot of work. And I'm okay. I'm okay with it, that I haven't seen these kids. I'm okay with that's how she wants to have it. And it doesn't interfere in my life anymore.
Mm. Doesn't interfere in terms of your experience of yourself.
Correct.
Mm.
Correct. Because those are the actions that they are doing for their own reasons.
Mm.
And one can go and ask and have other people ask why they're doing this. It doesn't solve anything.
Mm-hmm.
It just remains a mystery. And it's their reality of the reasons why they chose to do what they did. I can speculate because of the timing and everything, but in the end, that's what they chose to do. They created their own tension, but I didn't have to let it affect me in the way that they were intending it to affect me. That's a lot of hard work.
Yes, it's a lot of detachment from the personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You came to peace with one of the hardest lessons.
Mm.
To not take things personally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm. Well, and to be shunned, to be cut out, not belong with your kids and their kids.
Mm.
Yes.
The father has the father's way with that, and a mother has a mother's way with that.
Mm-hmm.
And a child has their way with it.
Yes. Because for me, it was like I was their stay-at-home mom. I was there 100% of the time. I did this for them. I did that for them. How could they do this? And that was the thing I had to get over, is that I did my job. I did my job. I raised my kids in the best way I could. I was a fantastic mom. And they've grown up. And it's that separation of all those duties and expectations that were put on that responsibility. At some point in life, that has to be separated because they become their own person, they have their own lives, and they then fulfill a similar role. If they choose to have kids, they become parents, just like I became a parent. And when I realized that my kids don't owe me anything for raising them, and I don't owe them anything for raising them either, other than I did my job at the time. It's like going to work for somebody, and at the end of the week, or they pay you. They don't owe you anything else because they paid you for the work that they did. And I've worked with people in the past where they say, I've given my time 10 years or 20 years to this company. They owe me this. And when you really think about it, they got paid every week. So what is there left to owe? Nothing. They owe them absolutely nothing. They got something for the service that they provided.
And I'll add, agreed upon by both
Correct.
parties.
Yes. Yes.
It goes back to our perceptions of contracts.
Or the unwritten, unspoken, the ones that we keep hidden, right?
Mm. Mm. I guess
because
the
they
more
keep the hitting, builds the resentment.
yeah. And I think more accurately it would be to say that it goes back to our expectations, which are our unaware contracts.
Expectations are just future resentments or predictable resentments.
Mm.
I like how you said that. That
Mm.
makes so much sense.
Or they come true, right? They happen. Like we get them sometimes. Sometimes we're pleasantly surprised with the expectations.
Hmm.
But if we're not, then it turns into the resentment. If we're not careful.
Mm.
Because it's our resentment. It's no one else's, yet we put the blame on something else. As if that's doing it to us. Oh, it's that boss that didn't recognize me, didn't give me this, didn't show me loyalty. No? Did you ever miss a paycheck? Did you ever not have a place to work? Was it never not there when you showed up? And then kids, it's as you speak that, Annette. My mom was stay at home too, and later on, I resented her for that. I just wanted my space.
Mm.
I didn't want her to be there when I got home. That was an angry part of teenager's life, you know. It was
Yes,
go ahead.
I was going to say yes. The life of a teenager is like riding big waves.
Yeah. Even if it looks calm.
Mm.
To say as I was picked up my son from a birthday party. It was later, and my fuse was a lot shorter. We'll put it that way. And compound after compound, like this happened, and then this happened, and oh, I let it get underneath of me, and it was like you could hear. I'll say it not in the way that it went, but for me, I lost my shit. You know, lost my shit, and yeah, over and how calm he was about it.
That's amazing.
Hmm. I could feel him take it, though. I could feel him take it on.
Mm.
So there's some cleanup for me to do, and just acknowledge how proud I am of how he handled it,
Mm.
how calm he was on the outside with it. Yet I could feel, I could sense, I could sense the frustration of it. But he didn't add to it.
On the edge of learning not to take it personal, Dex.
Yeah. It's funny.
It's
It's like
there.
I lost my shit, and there was times when I would call lost my shit at 10, and I would compare this one to a 2, where today it's a 10.
Mm,
I think that goes back to Ian's awareness that he spoke to. It's like sensing it, tensing it, feeling it in his body, and then going into that feeling and seeing what it has to discover, what it has to what it has to relay, to provide, what message is there. Since the aim is coherence, we look at when it's incoherent. Not take it personal, but to explore what are we making personal? What are we taking personal? It's asking that question.
and in that we allow for it.
Mhm.
I think that's my word for today, is allowing.
Allowing and exploring the coherent tensions, the coherence of tensions. The glue that holds them together, good or bad, aware or unaware, mine or yours. It's all like, how do I want it today? How do I want it right now? And there's conditions that keep it from where we want it to be today. A lot of times they're not ours, sometimes they can be. We can hold space for what we want because it has time. It's not a permanent one. Like we're in the message today or we're receiving the condition today, but it's not permanent.
Mm.
Now, if we keep the tension between us and keep growing it and feeding the seed that's been planted, there's a very good chance that tension will stay. But that's not allowing the tension, and that's being unaware. And the tension is usually between two unaware points. Especially in relationships. So two people that are giving their that are in problem solving structures as pointing to them out to their need to fix. An unresolvable structure. So simple, but not easy to see.
Hi, honey. Do you mind to put my thingy in the Wi-Fi thingy in for me? Don't worry, it's fine. Sorry, thank you, honey.
Sure thing. I don't think that was for us, huh, Allison?
Sorry.
That's okay. Well, I'm very pleased with the conversation this morning. Thank you. As we explored the tensions, we all have them. It's what we do with them. how we perceive them, how we orient to them. Whether we hold on to them, we fight them, resist them, or we allow them, we explore them, we unpack them. Then we can begin to see coherence, the alignment, the impacts, consequences. And then we're curious, which leads to the exploration, asking the question. Our intuitive questions. Exploring the answers, the space in between. And allowing the peace to settle in the place of the tension. So that we can see it for what it is on our part, for our part of it, for our end of the deal. We can be at peace with the circumstance, the situation, we can be at peace in this moment and hopeful for new space tomorrow.
This was good, Jesse. Thank you for the space. I think I'm going to pop off and carry on. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
Annette.
everybody.
Thanks,
Have a great
Allison.
Sunday.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ian, Craig. Thanks for kicking us off, Ian.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day.
You too.